Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I am delighted that you can be with us today. Oh, my dear, wonderful friends. Our guest today is our special friend, Dr. R. Craig Hogan. He's with us for an amazing 53rd time in our 13 years of doing these weekly Seek Reality conversations. Our very first Seek Reality interview was with Craig 13 years ago this month. And he has been our guest again about 4 times each year ever since. So that would make it about 53 times, which is just about right. Craig and I have been working together pretty smoothly too for all that time. I first met Craig in 2008 when his wonderful book, and you must read it if you haven't, Your Eternal Self was first published. Then for a time we would put on 4-day annual afterlife events in Arizona. I think they all were in Arizona. And they were lots of fun to do, but they took a tremendous amount of work and planning for what was maybe 400 or 500 attendees each time. Eventually, we turned those events into seekreality.com, which is a fantastic educational website that Craig now runs, and also my weekly podcast, which is what we're doing now yet again, and also my weekly blog post. Our wonderful friend Craig Hogan is by now the world's leading expert on the afterlife and on what happens when we die. Craig has devoted himself to teaching directly and amazingly about death and the afterlife, and he is the president of both the Afterlife Research and Education Institute, we call it AREI, and Seek Reality Online, or Seek Reality Inc. The latter is the greatest collection of genuine evidence about death and the afterlife that's available anywhere on the internet. Together, AREI and Seek Reality Online produce a fantastic monthly newsletter that's full of beautiful, in-depth evidence, real evidence. I urge you to sign up to receive Craig's newsletter. I look forward to reading it every month. Oh, my dear, wonderful, beautiful Craig, welcome. It's lovely to have you back with us.
Hi, Roberta. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to speak together like this. And I think that technology has been destined to come to this point where people like us could come together and we could share what we know about the nature of reality, this reality, and the life after this life. So it's a wonderful experience. I always look forward to it.
I look forward to it
Mhm.
too. But as we know, there are experiences people are having now, they call them near-death experiences, which is unfortunate because, as you and I both know very well, they have nothing whatsoever to do with actual death. They're a whole different, interesting, but different kind of
hmm
experience. So
hmm
let's talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. And we don't want to minimize that people have experiences when they are near death, when the body shuts down, because their consciousness never goes away. Consciousness is always active. So in this case, then, in the near-death experience, the consciousness is still active, even though the body shut down. The consciousness then has experiences of the next life and of people coming from the next life to speak with them during that time. So the near-death experiences are wonderful experiences, but we have many more, many other experiences, and not everyone can have a near-death experience. But we know today that people can actively have communications with their loved ones living in the life after this life. All they have to do is learn how to relax into the state of mind in which the occurrences, the events occur in their minds, and it's something that we teach. We teach people how to do it. So people can have their own experiences of life after this life. But there's so much ignorance today. People still don't understand. It's really odd at this time in humankind's history. Technology has gone so far. We know so many things now. But in our understanding of the life after this life and what happens after death, we are still ignorant. We're still primitive. We're still like we're out there in the forest around a campfire and knowing very little about what goes on So what we're doing is we know this truth. We know what it's like. We have roadmaps to the afterlife. We know what happens when the body dies. We know what happens when the person goes into the next life. And what we're trying to do is to help humanity to understand these things. But by and large, if you look out there and listen to people talk about what happens at the end of this life, there's just a great amount of ignorance. People just don't understand. The church didn't do any good. The church didn't help at all because what they did was, since they didn't understand it either, they created mythologies that would go along with what they thought was going to happen. But there's no description of what happens. And so there is that mythology that's overlaid where people are right now. So what we're trying to do is break through that and say, no, that's not true. What we know is true, and this is what's going to happen to you. This will happen to you at the end of your life, and this is how you'll make the transition. This is what you'll find when you get into the next life. This is what you'll do, and all of these things that we know to be true today, and we're just trying to help humankind to understand these truths.
Yeah, thank you for that. It
Hmm.
is pretty awful though
Hmm.
that people think that near-death experiences have anything to do with actual death.
Hmm.
They are trips very often to the astral plane, and the astral
Hmm.
plane is a part of our eternal lives. After
Hmm.
we have gone through the death process,
Hmm.
we then can spend as much time as we like in the astral plane, which is a wonderful, beautiful, amazing place. Colors people have never seen here because
Hmm.
they're beyond the visible light spectrum. Beautiful places we can go. Oh, it's
Hmm.
just beautiful and amazing and wonderful.
Hmm.
But you got to go through the death process first.
Hmm.
And that's wonderful too. Now, people will tell you they died and came back to life. That's impossible
Hmm.
because we have what it actually the Bible calls a silver cord, which
Hmm.
attaches our material body to our eternal body, which is our energy body. And our energy body, if it's detached, if that silver cord is separated,
Hmm.
from our eternal body, our energy body will go on. It's eternal.
Hmm. Hmm.
But our material body will, oops, die dead. And you
Hmm.
don't have the energy to have the material body, you can't walk around anymore in this life.
Hmm.
You're dead. So
Yeah.
many people who have extensive near-death experiences will come to a place eventually during that near-death experience trip, and
Hmm.
they're told, wait, stop, go back.
Hmm.
Because if you keep going, you are going to enter the afterlife, and
Hmm.
that's a one-way trip. Immediately, your silver cord will be severed, and
Hmm.
your material body will die. And when your
Hmm.
material body dies, you can't go back to
Hmm.
it. It's dead.
Yeah.
So therefore, go back. And
Hmm.
many extensive near-death experiences contain that experience. People
Hmm.
are told, go back or you're dead. And
Hmm.
that's the way it is. So if someone is standing before you and saying, oh, I died and came back to life, you know that person is lying to you.
Hmm.
And I hate to use the word lying
Hmm.
because it felt to them as if it was an extensive, amazing, a beautiful, boggling experience. Of course, they must have died and come back to life. They believed
Hmm.
it. They believe it happened.
Hmm.
But you and I know that it didn't happen
Hmm.
because if it had happened, they could not have come back. You
Yeah.
can't die and come back to life again. Craig will tell
Hmm.
you that. I
Yeah.
will tell
What?
you that.
Yeah.
Anybody who knows what's going on will tell you that,
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So we know that that's true. And the difference is that everyone has an exit point, or at least one, and sometimes more than one.
Right.
Everyone has an exit point. That's a point at which they have been planned ahead of time before their birth, that this
Yep.
is the time they're going to leave this life and go into the next life. And that exit point then is something that can't be changed once it happens. So then when the person goes into a near-death experience, they haven't reached their exit point yet.
Right.
So they haven't come to that point where they're going to be going. If they have come to the exit point, then they simply go into the next life. They don't go through a near-death experience. The
Right.
things that happen during a near-death experience only happen during that near-death experience, not during the actual exit going into the life after this life. When people go into the life after this life, we have many, many wonderful descriptions of it. They will sometimes awaken in a field with beautiful flowers all around them, and people who they love and pets they love come up to greet them, or they might waken up in a family home that they knew when they were a child, and it's just an exact replica of the family home, exactly the way it was, and all their loved ones are standing around as they awaken in the next life. Some of them go into what's called a restoration period. They go into a place in which there are many beds. It's rather like a hospital, but it has no walls, and there are other people there along with them. But all of these things happen to the person depending upon what is best for them, what is in their best interests.
What do
So they
they,
will go into the next life for that, but they will not have a period of the near death experience. They'll go straight into the afterlife and they'll awaken there. So that's the difference between the near death experience, where they then have encounters in the near death experience. They have encounters with their loved ones. They may have a being of light who comes and speaks to them. They have other events. But the purpose of the near death experience is to help them to live the rest of their life. It's part of their training, it's part of their teaching, it's part of the counseling that's helping them to live a better life. So everything in the near death experience is intended for this life. If the person is actually separated from the body, the silver cord has been snapped, then they will simply find themselves in the next life. They won't go through that near death type of experience. So that's the distinct difference. The near death experience is intended to help people to learn to do things differently in this life. And the
right.
full death experience is simply the transition that happens immediately and they're in the next life. So that's the primary difference.
It's very important, though, that
Mhm.
when people tell you that they have died, and
Mhm.
they're telling you that they have died, that you not believe that they're the exception. In fact, I've seen now they're starting to say they're the exception. They actually did die. There's no exception. That if that silver cord is severed, they have died and they cannot come back to life. If
Yeah.
it has not been severed, they've just had a near-death experience.
Hmm.
And a
Yeah.
certain percentage of near-death experiences, I think it's 1 in 7, are actually negative. They even sometimes include hell.
Yeah, about 5%.
They're,
But
they're,
they don't include hell. What
they're,
they do is
and
they,
Craig,
yeah,
is there a hell? Is there a real hell?
no, there is no hell. And we know that that's true. There never was a hell. And that's a
So therefore,
mythology that was developed in the early Christian church. Actually was not. You won't find it in the Acts of the Apostles, for instance. You won't find it in
you won't
Paul's
find it in
letters.
the
You won't
teachings of
find it
Jesus
in
either.
the earliest gospel, which is Luke. And so you won't find it any place in the early Christian church. It developed in the Christian church, and mostly it was to keep their parishioners in line
Right.
and to give people an excuse to give them a reason to become whatever the membership was called at that time. And that is the only purpose of this notion of hell. There is no such place as hell. There never was a place of hell. In the near death experience, about 5% of people have negative experiences. And some of those, then they come back and they describe it as a hell because of the fact that that's part of the mythology that we know. And so, as a result of that, then we have some of these stories about the near death experiences that have hellish experiences, but they're not actually a hell. They are, in fact, just negative experiences. And one of the reasons we know that is that there's no commonalities among them. There are, in fact, people will have their own experiences that are
Yeah.
unique to them. But
Yes.
yeah, but
Great
there
point.
is no
That's
such place
exactly
as a
right.
hell. Hmm?
Yeah. And all they have to do is say, help, help, and immediately they're out of that hell.
Yeah, yeah, hmm yeah,
That's a terrible thing, but
hmm yeah. So
fortunately it
people are
doesn't
learning that
exist.
now. we're
Yeah.
learning many things now. Humanity is maturing for the first time in our existence, and to understand what happens after the life after this in the life after this life, and what happens after the body dies. But this is simply a process of maturation for humanity. We are coming into the understanding of what happens after the life after this life. And it was always true, it was always what we knew to be true, but it was suppressed by the religions, by the church, through the first two millennia. And then science took over about 400 years ago, and they said, "Oh, there's no such thing as a life after this life. Once the body dies, then you die." And so science insisted that that was true, and that took over from religion, from the Christian Church. And so then people still stayed ignorant because science said something that was not true about what happens when the body dies. So we're still coming out of that ignorance. So we're coming out of the ignorance of the church and the ignorance of science, and we're coming into the realization of what happens when the body dies. And it's a wonderful message. It's the fact that we continue. We will live with our loved ones, all of our pets and our loved ones. They will come to us when we first make that transition. And that's the truth that we're coming to know now. And we know that without a doubt. And we're trying to help humanity, help people understand that this is true.
Yeah, it's very fortunate that in sort of the latterish part of the 19th century and into the 20th, we had an excellent form of mediumship, which really doesn't exist today. Nobody has the
Hmm.
patience for it. And but it did then because kind of before people had widespread use of electric lights.
Hmm.
People would gather for dinner by candlelight, and then many
Hmm.
people would go into the next room, and there would be people who would be developed as extremely good deep trance mediums.
Hmm.
And what they would be able to do would be to help people directly talk to their loved ones who had just transitioned. And those conversations, many of them were documented in great detail.
Hmm.
And, and some of the people then who had bought these books would be dying around the middle of, well, about the time I graduated from college, those
Hmm.
books would end
Hmm.
up in used bookstores. And there I
Hmm.
was graduating. This is my experience anyway. I was graduating about the late 60s, early 70s, and those books
Hmm.
were in used bookstores in Boston. And lo and behold, who was eagerly gathering up all these books, Gladys Osborne Leonard, and there were a couple of others. And I was
Hmm.
devouring those books. Oh
Hmm.
my goodness. I have to tell you,
Hmm.
Craig, I couldn't get enough of them. And they were beautiful accounts of people who had died, and they were chatting with their dead loved ones through these deep trance mediums, just as if they were talking through a window. I mean,
Hmm.
it was all these detailed accounts, no duplications, just detailed conversations.
Hmm.
And I got to read them. I was
Hmm.
drunk on this experience.
Hmm.
And because I was a big skeptic when I got out of college, but I had just majored in early Christian history, and it deluded me like you cannot believe about Christianity.
Hmm.
I had to know that something was real. And by the end of a couple of years of reading these books, boy, did I ever believe in the afterlife. You
Hmm.
could not believe in it because here were all these accounts and
Hmm.
they were real. I mean, they had to be real because they were just amazing and complex,
Hmm.
but they were down to earth. They were really down to earth.
Hmm.
I loved
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
believed then. I could
Hmm.
not believe.
Hmm.
So wow, I don't know what first made you start saying, "Hey, this is real stuff," but that's what did it for me.
Yeah. 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 And the evidence is out there now, and we're able to help people to understand it. Part of it is because these wonderful devices that we have today that will extend our communications to other people so we can tell them what we've experienced. You know, when Lincoln was assassinated, it took 2 days for the people on the West Coast to find out what had happened. Because it had to be by Pony Express. You know, that was the only way
Oh,
that
yeah.
communication could occur. Today we know instantly. I mean, we watch things as they happen. We can see the scenes of assassinations as they happen, and it's a whole different world. So what's happening now is that all of the information that we're learning, that we're being given by those in the other side of life, is coming to masses of people. And so we're having these understandings, we're having these realizations of what life is like. So it's really just opening to us now. It's really just opening, and we're just really learning about it now. And so, as we look at science, science today is coming upon conundrums. They don't understand. The difficulties that the people are having in understanding what the nature of reality is, whether it's in strings, whether it's in string theory, and about the universe, and whether there are multiverses, whether there are many universes, and they're attempting to explain what is happening in reality, and they can't explain it. So there is a plethora of explanations. And the reason they can't understand it, they can't explain what's going on, is the fact that they're not facing this reality. They haven't realized it yet. So science is coming to that because they're asking questions they can't answer. And as a result of the fact that they can't answer it, they're looking into other ways. And eventually, science then is going to understand this. It's going to be a commonly accepted fact that this world is a world of experiences that are given by our universal intelligence. That there is nothing but mind. There is nothing but the mind of God. That there is matter and energy are derived from the mind of God. And so all of that is going to become more apparent now because that science is asking the right questions, and they're just skirting on getting the right answers. And so we're going to be seeing big changes in the next few decades in which science is going to come around to realizing that we are eternal beings having a physical experience, and that this life then is a life that was made for us. It is in the mind of God, and that the basis of reality is this mind of God.
And our minds are all part
Hmm.
of that mind of God. There
Yeah.
really is only one mind,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
our minds are all part of that mind.
We're different facets of it. So what we are is we are manifestations of it. And we are actually one with each other. And humankind's going to
Right?
end up
Isn't that
realizing that we
amazing?
are one with each other. When
So,
we come into Earth's school and we come into the Earth plane, we separate that we accept this separation, this idea of separation among people. There is no real separation, but we accept that. We believe that that's true. We were reared to believe that that's true as children. And so then we continue to believe it's true. When we come to the point of realizing that we are not separate from each other, that we are
no,
one,
no.
then we will be able to communicate more clearly with each other. We'll be able to have more understanding of other people and other people's lives, and we'll all be able to communicate with the people living in life after this life. They're available to us. They're anxious to communicate with us. It is very possible, but we just haven't come to the point as humankind that we've matured into understanding that we are one with each other. We are one with those in the afterlife. We can communicate with them anytime we want to. That's coming. We're discovering that now. You and I, who realize this truth, we're able to do it. We're able to help people. We have a training program which is available to people to teach them how to communicate with their loved ones. It's available to them, and they can do that. They can go to a medium. Mediums are very good at communicating with people and living in the life after this life. And as this becomes more apparent, as it becomes commonplace for people to communicate with their
Oh,
loved ones, all of the fear of the end of this life is going to be gone. A realization of what will happen after this life is going to be commonplace for among people, and we are going to see a change, a sea change in humankind and humankind's attitude towards this life and the next.
grief at the end of life will become nothing more than we all sit around the bed
Hmm.
and celebrate with,
Hmm.
especially, if the person is old, has had a full life, and we all sit around the bed and celebrate.
Hmm.
They're happy for the person who is leaving. I
Yeah.
didn't cry when either of my parents died.
Mm-hmm.
They had happy lives. My father was in his very late 80s. He'd had a stroke. He couldn't use that old body anymore. He was happy. He had people for
Mm-hmm.
days around his bed coming to celebrate with him and we insisted it be a celebration. He's going to a wonderful, wonderful place. He wasn't unhappy at all. And when my
Mm-hmm.
mother died, oh my goodness, she was 93 and
Mm-hmm.
she was ready and happy and oh,
Mm-hmm.
you can't cry. You have to be happy with them. And oh,
Mm-hmm.
she
Mm-hmm.
having the time of her life now
Yeah. Yeah.
because she turned out to be a rather advanced being. She's traveled.
Mm-hmm.
She traveled when she was here, but she only had the world to travel. Now
Mm-hmm.
she travels in eternity. And we hear
Mm-hmm.
from her every so often how much fun she's having. Oh,
Yeah.
Craig,
Yeah.
life is eternal, and that makes it so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, and we can communicate with them immediately. So when they make the transition into the next life, then they are anxious to communicate with us. So all the accounts of people living in the life after this life say, I came back to my loved ones. They're able to do that by simply intending to be with them. And when
Yes.
they intend to be with them, then they are immediately in the room with their loved one, whoever it is, or the group of loved ones. And so
They
they're
go to a
immediately
lot of them
there.
go to their own funerals.
Yeah, a
When you
lot of them
go
go to
to
their own
the funeral,
funerals. Yep, yep.
assume mom is there.
Yep.
Yes.
And so they're immediately aware, they're immediately able to communicate. The reason that people are not communicating so much with people when they first make the transition is that people on this side of life, we are grief-stricken unnecessarily, but people are grief-stricken because they think the person's gone forever. And so then their state of mind is such that they can't communicate. In other words, they can't relax into the communication that would be there. So people can communicate immediately with their loved one when they make the transition. For most people, it takes up to a year because we're ignorant about what happens in the life after this life, and there's grief, and that shouldn't be. But there, people are grieving for a year, and so then they might start to have the afterlife communications. But the people in the life after this life are intending to communicate. They want to communicate
Yeah.
immediately as soon as they make the transition. And so
Yeah.
they try. There's one story, wonderful story in Leslie Flint's archives. Leslie Flint was a direct voice medium in the 20th century, and he had people come into the room from the afterlife, and they would speak through an ectoplasmic voice box that formed on his shoulder. And he had many stories about people, but one man who came through, his name was Mr. Higgins. And Mr. Higgins came through and he said that as soon as he was in the other side and he realized that he was there, he immediately thought of his wife and he wanted to wonder what was going on, what was happening with her. And as soon as he thought that, then he was in the kitchen with her, standing in the kitchen with her, and she was there peeling potatoes. She was grieving. She was sobbing because of the fact that he had just made the transition and she didn't know where he was. And so he tried to talk to her, and she didn't understand what he was saying. And so a guide who was with him said, focus your thoughts on her. Focus your thoughts on her, and try to give her a message through your thoughts. And so he focused his thoughts on her and called her name. He said, Doris, Doris, Doris. And she suddenly stopped and dropped the knife that she had in her hand, and went sobbing off into the bedroom. The reason is that she had gotten his words. She had gotten his name, the name that he was saying, and she was still in grief and didn't understand what was going on. And so it made her think of him, because we know that when people are grieving, after a person has made the transition, when a person has a sudden wave of grief, it just comes over them suddenly, and
Oh, yeah.
it's terrible.
I can
That's
agree.
because of the fact that their loved one is standing there with them at that
Yes.
moment. They're with them. They come to be them. They're with them, and they sense that. They realize that's true, and that reminds them of the person. And then they realize that the person is not there with them, and then they grieve because they don't understand the reality that they're just very much alive. And so then they go into a stage of grief. So we know that when people
Uh,
have a wave of grief, it's very often because their loved one has come with them, is with them at that moment, is in their presence at that moment.
right, right.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
But there is no such thing as death.
No. There's no death.
Nobody ever dies.
No,
We are
there's no death.
eternal beings by our very nature.
Mm-hmm.
That's who
Yeah,
we are.
yeah.
Everybody is young and beautiful again
Mm-hmm.
immediately or very soon thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
As
Yeah,
soon as
yeah.
they think I'm young and beautiful, they are. And
Yeah.
they are wonderfully,
Yeah.
wonderfully full of vigor, full of joy. It's
Hmm.
just an amazing experience to
Yeah.
die.
Yeah. And the transition is very easy. So people don't even realize there's a transition. In the near-death experience, a person has the sense of being in a struggle
Yeah,
because they're being manhandled by the emergency personnel and all of the things that are happening. That's where when somebody comes back and says they had a negative experience, that's because of the fact that they're being manhandled. It's only 5% of the near-death experiences are negative. But they're not consistent. They don't describe the same thing. It's just negative in some
right,
way.
right.
But when they actually make the transition, when a person makes the transition, they are immediately in the life after this life. They don't even realize it happens. They think that they're still on the earth plane. They still
They're,
think they're alive
they
because they don't realize they've made the transition. And if people are coming in, if there's going to be a horrendous accident, for instance, the accounts that we have from people living in the life after this life about what happens is that they don't experience that transition. In other words, just before it happens, they're taken out.
they're out of
So
their
they are
bodies.
not in it
That's right.
when that terrible accident happens or that plane crash happens. So they are out of it before they make the transition, and they just
They're
suddenly
an
are
auto
in the
crash.
life after this life. Yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
Or an
and
auto crash, for example.
mm-hmm,
I mean, Mikey Morgan, who is a frequent guest on our show,
yeah,
um, said that he died in an auto crash at the age of
mm-hmm,
20, and he went out right out through the roof, which was a closed. There was nothing open there, but he went right out through the roof
mm-hmm,
just as before the crash happened, just as it was
yeah,
starting to happen. No
mm-hmm,
pain, no anything, and there was somebody right there waiting to welcome him, and they sat together and watched the crash.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's how it happens if you have
Yeah,
that kind of experience, and
yeah,
that's how you die.
yeah. It's very simple. It's very easy. Don't nobody needs to worry about, what will it be like when I'm making the transition? Will I feel myself going out of my body? And none of that happens. The person is simply immediately in the life after this life. And most people then don't realize what's happened. They don't see that they have made the transition.
Many
And
people,
so yeah,
and some
and so
people
then,
go in their sleep. My
yeah,
mother
yeah,
was very insistent on telling me that she died in her sleep. In fact, she
yeah.
wouldn't believe she was dead because it looked like her familiar bedroom. And they had to
Mm-hmm,
take her to a window and make her look out the window and say, "Does this look familiar to you?" Well, no, it didn't look at all familiar. It was just a
mm-hmm,
green field.
yeah,
Then she
yeah.
finally believed that she had passed.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of stubborn. She wouldn't believe anything. You had to show her everything.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a beautiful, it's all beautiful. And
yeah.
whatever is special to you and you would love to see happen after you die, believe me, they're going to make sure you have those wonderful experiences.
Mm-hmm.
They love us more than we can imagine. And they
Mm-hmm.
want us to have these gifts of love and light and purity and beauty and joy, pure joy that
Mm-hmm.
we can go to and feel at home with God and feel at home with Jesus. Whatever is important to us, they want that to be what we go to in the beauty of our coming home to God.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot, it's impossible for Craig and me to adequately to convey to you what it's like to go
Mm-hmm.
home because that is our real home. It's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful experience. The people, when they communicate to us from the next life, and they describe what it's like, and they say that they can hardly state, they can hardly describe it because it's so wonderful. And it really is an experience that everyone can look forward to. It is not going to be a frightful experience. It is going to be an easy experience, and they're going to make the transition easily.
And that's all we can, we can really.
Hmm.
There's a hymn. It's something like, I cannot see, ears cannot hear what God has ready for those who love.
Hmm.
That's a
Yeah.
hymn.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And so once they make the transition into the next life, then they will awaken there. And after they've awakened there, then they're going to be with people they love. And we know that that's true. We repeatedly hear that from people living in the next life. So there's no doubt about that.
And some of the people that will come to their party because there's big parties. Oh, do they
Mm-hmm.
party
Mm-hmm.
hardy there? But they'll have a big party for each of us. And some
Mm-hmm.
of the people who come to our party we'll look at and we'll recognize as people we thought of as great enemies in this life. And we'll fall into their arms full of love because we'll
Mm-hmm.
that they're great,
Mm-hmm.
great loves of our eternal lives. And they promised to help us to grow
Mm-hmm.
spiritually. And the way they did that was to
Mm-hmm.
play these roles
Yep.
in these
Yep.
lives on earth that helped us to grow by
Mm-hmm.
being
Mm-hmm.
villains in our lives a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that helps us grow too. I mean, it's just
Mm-hmm.
life is just so wonderful in so many ways, and some of those ways seem negative to us here a little
Mm-hmm.
bit,
Yeah.
but that
Yeah.
helps
That's
us to
true.
grow. So
Yeah.
thank those people here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank them and bless them and forgive
Mm-hmm.
them here because you will be
Mm-hmm.
doing that big time when you get home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's true. That is true. Yeah. So
Oh,
yeah, well, it's something
life
we can look forward to.
life is
Mm-hmm.
so wonderful. It truly
Mm-hmm.
is so wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
It is
so,
wonderful. And so we know that because of the fact that we are now finding out about the nature of reality. And what is at the basis of reality. And we hear many who are now studying what the basis of reality, and they can't really come down to anything that is coming as a physical universe, that a universe that exists as rocks and stones and outside of us. And they can't come down to understanding how that could be a physical universe when there are some of the things that are happening, such as the double slit experiment, and in which people can look at an experiment, and when they look at it, they make it change, they make it happen, they make something happen, and as a result of that, then we realize that this reality, the nature of this reality, is mind. It is our minds that are making a difference for us.
yeah,
And people are just coming down around to realizing that right now, that it isn't things that exist outside of us, that it is in the mind of God. We are experiencing the same dream together. And as people begin to realize that, and they can come to realize that this life is a wonderful experience, but it is not important, that we will continue to live after this body dies, and we'll go on to the next life. And so that is a reality that is coming now to dominate. It will come into science, it will come into religion, it will come into all aspects of our lives. And that is happening. It will happen in the next few centuries.
yeah. But
Hmm.
what's wonderful about doing the studies that you and I are doing is that we're coming to understand it now.
Hmm.
And it is so liberating. It is so joyous. I mean,
Hmm.
there are some days when I just can't stop laughing out of the
Hmm.
wonder, the sheer wonder of it all. I
Hmm.
mean, it's all so beautiful. It's so
Hmm.
amazing. It's so wonderful. And all of it is true.
Yeah, it's all true. It's
Yes,
all
you
true.
cannot get
Yeah.
beyond the sheer
Yeah,
delight.
people just have to come to realize that we just have to grow into it, the same way that we grew into understanding that we could use a television set and we could get waves of electromagnetism out of the air, and we could make pictures come on television sets, and that we have telephones, and now we have AI, and all of these advancements that we're making in science. We need to make the same advancements in our understanding of life after this life, and that's coming. It will come.
Well, the point is
Hmm.
for us, for people like us who have done this work, it's already here.
Yeah.
I just feel so blissful about it all.
Hmm. Yeah.
We're coming toward the end of our time. What do you want
Hmm.
people to take away from our conversation today?
Yeah.
Except for the fact that we're drunk all the time and
Yeah.
we're just drunk
It's
on
true.
life. That's
Yeah, it's
really
true.
what we're
Right.
drunk on.
Yeah, and people just need to realize the fact that we are eternal beings. We're having a physical experience. This is just a temporary experience. in which we can live together in love, peace, and joy. That we can learn from this experience, and we will take this learning into our next lives. But we needn't worry about what will happen at the end of this life, or we needn't worry about what happened to our loved ones who have gone on and transitioned into the next life. They are fine. They're anxious to communicate with us. We can talk with them. All we have to do is learn how to relax into talking with them. That there is no separation between this life and the next, except what we make of it in our own minds. And so then if we just relinquish that, if we just obliterate that separation, then we will immediately be able to communicate, and we will realize that they are alive and well and happy, and we will be alive and well and happy when we leave this body and make the transition.
Perfectly said.
Hmm?
So just stay there for a moment. I have to tell them who our guest will be next week. But also, I just heard from some people in Russia, and they say they're in contact with you, and so they want to do something with me as well. And
Mm-hmm.
I have to ask you about that. So I'll be right back, my dear. Just have to tell everybody who our guest is going to be next week. Oh, my dear ones, this is all so much fun. I just cannot stop telling you how much joy there is in knowing that it's all good news. And the good news, the really good news, is there's no bad news at all. Oh, my dearly beloved friends, we've come to the end of our time together this week, but next week is right around the corner. This has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. I'm so glad you could be with us today. Please never forget that you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began, you never will end. And when you get that, and all the implications of that fact, it changes everything in your life for the better. Next week, our guest will be our dear friend from just across the U.S.'s northern border, Carolyn Mullers. She's going to be with us for the 8th time. Carolyn is just a lovely, gentle friend who is concerned about the way things are going in the world, and that's one of the things we'll talk about. But she's also one of the worldwide rarities nowadays. She's a naturally talented medium. Please try to be with us next week. These are always lovely and lively conversations. And of course, this week, our wonderful friend, Dr. R. Craig Hogan, has been with us for a wonderful 53rd time. Now, Seek Reality is 13 years old this month. It's been a podcast for that long. I didn't know what a podcast was when someone asked me to start a podcast. I said, what the heck? And, who's counting? 13 years. Wow. Craig is my very dear, particular, and special friend. He has helped me in so many ways to ever better do this research. He and I we've done a variety of things together, but we've come to believe what we're doing now helps the most in getting the word out, which is the most important thing that we do. He was our first guest on Seek Reality as a podcast, and now he's here to celebrate 13 years this month. He's our regular routine guest. Most of all, he's just a friend of mine, and I'm going to talk to him about something else. Some people who have just contacted me, and the first thing they say is, we work with Craig. So then, of course, whatever they want me to do, I'll do with them. And we always love having him back as a guest. And now, of course, it's time for us to say goodbye for another week. This has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please enjoy and make the most of this coming week in our one reality, and always know for certain that you are a powerful, eternal being, and you, most of all in this entire, really fictional universe, you are infinitely, eternally, perfectly, and forever loved.
You've been listening to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Join us every week as we explore what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about the one reality we all share. Knowing the truth changes everything.